Feel free to return to our channel at any time. Before anything else, Brian, would you like me to bring up the fresh recordings? At this very moment, what exactly are you doing in the studio? To be more specific, we're developing brand new content. About 50% newer songs and 50% older ones make up our current CD, 15 big ones. Old songs are considered classics, whereas new songs are referred to as newies. Regarding the new record, though, we are still in the dark as to its title. We'll be featuring slightly more fresh content than previous installments. This one's about a tiny boy named Hey Tiny Tomboy. We're thrilled with it because it tells the story of a little girl who is a bit of a tomboy, you know what I mean, and how this guy manages to persuade her to become a pretty girl. Little by little, she starts shaving her legs, wearing short skirts, and applying lipstick to her makeup. Put together, fully recommended. There will be 12 cuts. 15 large ones have 15 cuts. 12 songs will most likely make up this album, either 12 or 13. 10 of the 12 are so in our possession. All right then, in late September or early October, you can expect them to be ready. Yeah, did you hear about the band's new addition? Which artists do you have performing with the Beatles? Dennis Wilson, Carl Wilson, Billy Hinchy, Beach Boys member, and Eddie Carter are the main musicians. Playing on the Phil Spector album was Steve Douglas. During our sessions, we are joined by a number of performers from Phil Spector's recording facility. The outcome is satisfactory. We are having fun. There must be at least 10 of us whenever we go into the studio. You were doing a lot of recording at the Santa Monica studio when I last saw you chatting with the Beach Boys, Brian. Then you brought some of that work up to Caribou. 3 or 4 songs were only partially completed at that stage. Will they be one of the things that go down those 4 or 3 paths? Are you able to recall any of the names? I can only recall one title that has any kind of connection to water. The River Matter. Oh, Dennis wrote that tune. I agree with that. A river's melody. I see. Hymn of the Riverboat. It's finished. Yes. Those things you heard are mostly finished now. We are now in motion. As we go, we'll be gone. When do you anticipate that being completed? The record should be completed by the end of September, as previously said. I hope so. Plus, the record ought to be decent. This album is going to be fantastic. This album should be called Brian's in Love. However, I doubt they will actually execute it. Reason being, Now It's Okay and Rock and Roll Music have recently been released as singles here. By the way, your most recent single was a rock and roll number, wasn't it? It's enormous. For a long time, we didn't have a single that huge. I believe it was in 1967 that we had our last one, Do It Again. Not many of our singles have been commercially successful. Rock and roll music, you know, roll, rock, in a roll, is what we're known for, big albums and all. You know, it had that classic Chuck Berry vibe. There was a lot of spirit in it, then. I mean, the album's most alluring feature was, after Sunflower, Surf's Up in Holland, which took a somewhat more subdued approach, didn't it? Once again, you're returning to a style that was more commonly associated with the Beach Boys in the past. You see, harmonics is essentially where we shine. The fact that we are cousins and brothers gives us a harmonious blend. Just like the King sisters, we're a big family. A certain familial combination exists. Somehow, our throats are really similar. What the case is, I have no idea. Our voices are unique. We managed to fit in nicely, and there are plenty of harmonies on the CD. What does that mean? Will it feel like 15 major ones? We have a song called My Solution that features unusual chords rather than standard triad chords. It's somewhat peculiar, but there are songs like this. Chords are present, and the notes are clustered. And it recounts the tale of a man who, upon discovering an elderly damsel outside his castle, chose to use her as a subject in an experiment. What have I done with my answer? My quick tool for evolution anyway. He continues. This story is about a man who came up with an answer. It's the creepy, strange, Boris Karloff kind of thing. Therefore, it is one of the more unconventional things we have done. At this point in your life, with whom are you working most closely? My primary collaborator is Mike Love, but Carl and I work together occasionally. I've worked with an actor named Van Dyke Parks before, We both play villains. I agree with that. On the other hand, our output has decreased. Yeah, after all this time away, Brian, how are you planning to rejoin the band? So, you're referring to the band performing live? Yes, in front of the audience. The Anaheim Stadium in California is quite well known, and I had the opportunity to play there. Yeah, I was a nervous wreck when I played that show. I felt a bit uneasy. I plan to perform in Washington, D.C., which promises to be an enormous event with an expected audience of 80,000. From 60,000 to 80,000 people often see the lads perform live. Outdoor concerts are a regular occurrence for them, and they consistently draw enormous audiences. So I'll be joining them on the field, and I'll definitely be playing in England if we do. Yeah, sure, I'd love to. Yeah, the fact that you brought all that gear over to Holland astounded me at the time. To capture the album in Holland and then transport it back home. I mean, I am well aware of how high the price tag was. The price tag was astronomical. I mean, just to start, the equipment was built for $190,000. It took a lot of money to build, but the system was designed by the brilliant Steve Moffat. However, the shipping expenses were also exorbitant for returning it. However, our Holland cassettes were returned. We returned them to the United States. We released the album after dubbing him here in the US. It was a resounding triumph. Were you also involved in the fairy tale? An enchanting tale was penned. Sailing Away, an album by Randy Newman, was actually playing. That record is fantastic. I'm not sure if anyone has heard it. I drew ideas from that. That album was on repeat for me. For some reason, the music from that record had to be playing while I stood there with a pencil and paper composing this fairy tale. It was really insane. It is essential to my success. His words were slipping my mind. All I could hear were the tunes of the fairy tale. A young prince once resided in a mansion perched on a hill in a hidden realm. Then what transpired? At that point, I didn't hear anything about what you were planning to do after returning from Holland Brown. Time frame began. I entered what I would describe as a period of seclusion during which I spent much of my time in my bedroom. I was snorting cocaine and other narcotics, and I strongly disagree with it. To be clear, I will not support someone who snorts cocaine. It's a terrible medicine, but I took it nonetheless. They fucked me over since I was able to acquire all these medicines with my large fortune. I am a millionaire, after all. I got my hands on a bunch of narcotics, and they really messed me up. They confused me. So, what gave you the push to get back into the band's swing and record again? Was the studio the initial location? My wife contacted a doctor named Gene Landy, and I started a battery of rehabilitation experiments with him and his staff when I was summoned. Thanks to social control, social grace, and a series of therapy meetings, I've been able to kick my drug habit and regain my independence. With the support of my wife, doctors, brothers, mom, and a few friends, I finally broke out of my room and went back to work in the studio, where I'm gratefully reaping the financial benefits. Plus, my number one objective is to make other people happy, with the goal of bringing joy to individuals. The last time I went here, people were saying, and I recall one comment about word for word, that Brian Wilson had the greatest impact on American rock music for the next 30 years. Plus, it's audible everywhere you turn. Brian, your impact is pervasive. In other words, do you think that's a heavy burden? Yes, I do, without a doubt. Because keeping promises becomes second nature when you've made a name for yourself as a producer, artist, or speaker with a distinct style and the ability to make an impact. What this means is that artists have a responsibility to keep working constructively. The universal human desire to be appreciated is inherent in all creative endeavors. As an individual, you work on your craft because you care about the reception it will receive. Oh, I see. Could you tell me more about the methods you used? For instance, the incredible percussion techniques on Pet Sounds, which are essentially an interpretation of Phil Spector's recording style, or the ways you used instruments, like fusing pianos and guitars to create a new instrument. Put another way, you won't get a guitar or piano out of a good electronic combination of the two. A new instrument, the piano guitar, will be yours. It will have a deeper impact with two guitars and two pianos, blending piccolos, flutes, French horns, and trumpets on one instrument. It's interesting to note that during the 1940s and 1950s, arrangements were being explored, such as here, listen to this string section now, or this French horn. Do you get my meaning? Everything sounded exactly the same. No sonic permutations were present. The emergence of Phil Spector also brought about sound combinations, which are an incredibly innovative and scientifically sound component of music composition. Okay, Brian, let's talk about pet sounds so the cameras can pick it up, and the incredible instrumental and percussion skills that you employed throughout that record. You were merely describing to me the manner in which you were assembling things. Can you repeat yourself? No problem at all. One of the most technologically advanced musical and acoustic innovations of the 20th century, the Phil Spector technique, was employed in pet sounds. Specifically that, it's the process of creating a new sound by blending different instruments. Put another way, you wouldn't obtain a new instrument or sound by just combining two existing ones. For example, a piano and a guitar would make a great pair. And if you utilize 3 pianos and 3 guitars, you have 6 instruments total. The result is an excellent sound, like when you mix several kinds of horns or when you use strings and voices to create a certain sound. Not only have we employed these technological developments in music, but we're also going to use them in our upcoming album and 15 other major ones. Additionally, you're accustomed to hearing a solo singer using the voice where you have a one, because it's impossible to get the two notes to sound exactly same. The resulting mellowness is the result of performers layering their voices to sing the identical notes over each other. The result is the excellent and lovely wave effect. Continuing from the Pet Sounds era, Brian, since there is still some misunderstanding concerning Smile, Smiley Smile, and the Fire tapes, let's talk about that. I see. Sure, mind elaborating on it. At first, we were planning to release an album under the name Smile, and I had all these wild ideas for it. Was indulging in some hashish while the boys smoked it. We laid on the floor and sang along, with the microphones resting on our heads. We got into a strange bag and, we found a tape with a song called Fire. At that point, I was pretty stoned. Coincidentally, a building across the street from the studio where the Fire videos were being recorded burned down on the very same day that we were filming that. The musicians were all outfitted in fire helmets, and someone even brought in a pail of burning wood so we could all smell smoke in the studio. I was completely insane. In any case, I started to believe that we had magically set that fire, which led to the destruction of the tape and a few other pieces of smiling tape. Actually, a record titled 2020 had essentially a cab. There was a smiling cassette like that. Yeah, Brian, did you see anything on Sunflower? On one item, absolutely not. Was Cabin Essence the sole one, then? Well. I find that intriguing, too. Looking back, which album do you still consider to be your favorite? That album, Friends, is probably my favorite. On here, you can find some endearing, short tunes. It has an owner. No, we didn't use 2 lead voices and overdub them. There was just one distinct voice that we employed. The 2-voice method came up in our conversation. Friends and Wild Honey are my favorite albums because of the intimate sound and very personal, folksy vibe they had. 2020 was also interesting at the time. Again, it appeared to continue. From that moment on, didn't it? In particular, I've never figured out how to stop loving, and that song is fantastic. That was done by my brother Dennis. Yes, that was really soothing in many ways, wasn't it? I adore that song. So let's chat about Sunflowers for a bit. Is it a sunflower? Indeed, Sunflower was an exceptionally soothing album. Hadn't had much to say, so I dropped by. Hold for a second. Sunflower has a song about a small bird called At My Window, I believe. Not to mention, the CD is adorable. It was full of, delicate flavors. I really enjoyed this CD because it was so gentle. I enjoy soft melodies. Anything fragile. Doovan is wonderful. View Donovan as an exceptionally sensitive artist. He's been my favorite for as long as I can remember. And Surfsay, Let me tell you about two thoughts that came to me as I was thinking about Pet Sounds again. Back then, I thought it was a monumental achievement, and many people still consider it to be one of the best albums of all time. The reception that album received in California, though, was really underwhelming, Brian. Yeah, I was really let down. That was completely lost on us. It seemed like a lot of effort, and we estimated that. For it, we should be acknowledged and rewarded. On the whole, it was disappointing, but in terms of success, well, I really don't know what to say. A failed record is something I just cannot fathom. You have no idea what the next one will bring. Oh, there's Art Garfunkel, for example. I really like him. I mean, his album peaked at #1. Because of this, it is extremely difficult to predict who will have a breakthrough record that reaches the top spot. For the same reason that I felt Surf's Up in America fell short in terms of record sales, I can't help but wonder if something similar happened there. Simply said, Surf's Up is an absolutely outstanding album in my opinion. Well, let's talk about what's to come. You're currently in the studio, and there are upcoming gigs. What are the plans for the future, both short and long term? To be honest, I have no idea what the organization has planned for the future. They intend to travel extensively, and I believe they have England on their itinerary. I intend to accompany them there. Both of us intend to record extensively. A new fairy tale is something we'd want to do. The plot is still a mystery to me, but I can tell you that it will feature musical interludes similar to the last one, just without Vernon and Fairway. And, nevertheless, we intend to produce a film in addition to a great deal of television. We taped a TV special, which I believe will, or has already aired in the UK. We also intend to release songs, go on tour, and appear in films and TV shows. We intend to fully execute the task. My question is, when exactly are you planning to visit the UK? We have no idea. It will probably be in the spring of next year, at the latest. I am really anticipating that. Brian Lawson, I am really grateful. Much obliged.